Hi, this is Jaime Goldstein here with the Mercury Retrograde Alchemy Summit, and I'm so excited to be sitting here with Lindsay Martin Ellis, the human design coach. And I have a Scorpio moon, so I am very interested in deep self-understanding, deeply knowing myself, and through that, being able to live life from a more conscious, empowered place. And so I was naturally drawn to astrology because I was amazed by the immense depth of self-understanding that my astrology chart offered me. And I'm always discovering there are infinite ways of infinite levels of new self-understanding that I'm always arriving at, even though I've studied my astrology chart for many, many years and we're working with clients. These new levels of self-understanding that come from all the beautiful depth and nuances in our astrology chart. And I'm always very interested in new perspectives to understand myself on a deeper level. And I've gotten to know Lindsay, and I'm always very curious what she has to share about human design, because what she shared with me about my human design chart is very resonant with my life experience. And I don't know a lot about human design from my understanding that it is based on astrology and then integrates other traditions like the chakra systems, and Lindsay's going to share more about that. And so I've been so inspired by the Gemini North Node, this holding space for new perspective and new ways of looking at something. And so I'm so excited to hear this perspective of these new ways we can understand ourselves through human design. Lindsay's going to share about the human design types, and then is going to share about how this can support us during Mercury retrograde. And so welcome, Lindsay. I'm just going to share a little bit about you. I have your bio here, and then we'll get to hear all of your beautiful offerings. Lindsay, about 5 years ago, she had a transformational journey, which led her on her path to wellness, vitality. She's very passionate about spiritual wellness, and that led her to getting certified in human design. So welcome, Lindsay. I'm so happy that you're here. You're such a dear
Thank
soul
you.
sister. And can you just start off by sharing with us a little bit about your journey?
Yes, I'm so grateful to be here because it's so fun how my transformational healing journey has kind of like woven me through different like modalities and parts of my life that have really helped me heal. And my spiritual wellness and my spirituality is a huge part of that. And, recognizing the support that we have all around us energetically in the cosmos. And um, essentially, I won't get into like my whole crazy story, but I suffered from, women's hormone related health issues when I was about 15, 16. And it really just kept like, I just kept having these moments in my life where my health was failing and I was doing all of these things that doctors told me to do and that my parents told me to do. And I felt like all of my friends in my teens and my 20s could just do whatever they wanted. And I'm like, having strict diets and doing all these things and on all these medications. And it was the moment when I hit 30, I got engaged and I just felt this inner calling to listen to my inner knowing and just to start listening and trusting myself. And that led me down this whole holistic path of understanding my body, listening to my body, calling in support, and really trusting, that I knew like I had sovereignty over myself and I knew what was best for me. And was in corporate. I was an environmental engineer for 10 years and left that about 2.5 years ago. And I've just been an entrepreneur in the women's, wellness and empowerment space. And human design is just another amazing tool that I've been able to leverage to really help myself heal, help myself understand myself better, and really make empowered decisions, which is why I'm super excited that Jamie asked me to be here. Because during retrograde, right, like there's a lot with communication and decision making, and human design has really helped me ground into how to make empowered decisions.
Yeah, thank you so much. And for anyone who's new to human design, if you'd share a little bit about what that is for us. And then I was so inspired to bring you here for the interview with this idea of when we do have these astrological transits that can feel more challenging. And throughout the summit, we've had so many speakers share about the hidden gifts of Mercury
Mhm.
retrograde, really the tricks that happen. There is a sacred trickster medicine to it, but
Yes.
just at the same time acknowledge the very real frustration and challenge that can come up during these times. I'm so inspired to hear from you, how we can connect with human design as a way to kind of anchor us when we are experiencing these more challenging, astrological energies.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, it's human design is really like your base. So it's an energetic blueprint, and the system is based on your exact time, date, and place of birth. And that is what then allows you to have your own energetic blueprint that is different than everyone else's. Like, it is specific to you based on the planetary alignment of when you were born. And so, how you're wired to make decisions and cultivate relationships and really just create, right? Like, we're humans, we're creating, we have busy lives. Like, during retrograde, the world doesn't stop, right? Like, you know, we still have decisions to make, we still have relationships, we still have things to take care of. And what I love about human design, it's less about changing who you are and more about giving yourself permission to be who you've always been. And for me, when I was gifted a human design session from my mentor in my business, and I felt just so much relief. I felt like, oh my gosh, I feel seen. I feel like I have tools now to come back to, like all of these things inside of me that I felt like were like just kind of bubbling up. Everything was affirmed. And then what's funny is I started to see human design popping up everywhere. I ended up on a summit where there was this woman, her name's Karen Curry Parker, and she studied under Ra, Uru Uru. He was the gentleman who basically wrote the entire human design. So I think it's fun to kind of talk about this. Um, Karen studied under him for 20 years. So in 1987, there was a supernova. So there was a star that exploded, and everyone on planet Earth had the download. We all received the download unconsciously. Ra is the only gentleman, the only human that, to our knowledge, that received the download consciously, and was in Ibiza, Spain, and wrote the entire human design platform, I think in like 2 weeks, which is wild. Different modalities. So it's a synthesis of Eastern and Western astrology, the Chinese I Ching, Hindu chakra system, Kabbalah, and quantum physics. So I just feel like there's a lot happening in our blueprints, but there's so much wisdom. There's so much wisdom that really synthesizes in a simplified way how we can really show up in the world. And that's what I'm here to do today, is to just give you like a basis and an understanding of really how to look at your blueprint, how to understand it. So during, times of retrograde, it can really help support you. So I hope that answered your
Yeah,
question.
I love that. And I got chills as you were talking about the supernova in
Yeah.
1987, because that would have been, I don't know what time of the year that was, but that would have been the year that I was conceived. I was born in
Mm.
1988. So I'm like, oh, maybe I like wrote in on the supernova, over
Oh,
here.
I just got chills, so it must be true.
Yeah, I got those full body chills. And I would love to hear a little bit. So probably many of the people that are here, are familiar with astrology and their astrological natal chart, which I always kind of call a cosmic blueprint, which
Yes.
is kind of similar in that sense that it is, it is our essence, our psychological underpinning and those kinds of things. And I know human design is also based on, our astrology, our astrology chart in some sense. And actually, please clarify if I'm saying this wrong. How can, the astrology natal chart, I mean, to me, it's like, everything, it like guides my whole kind of way of life. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really similar that when there are those more challenging astrological transits, I have that I have that anchor to kind of hold me steady and to kind of know how to navigate the energy. How is human design a little bit different than an astrology chart? Because I know it adds in these other modalities like you shared about as well.
Yeah, that's really it. It's just like additional layers, right? So
Yeah,
it's like
cool.
it's like, I think of the Enneagram, I think of human design, I think of astrology, right? Like some of them are based on planetary alignment, some of them are based on our childhood, some of them are like, okay, who were before society got their hands on us? Who is our actual soul like before we actually like came into human form? And so like a great example is with the Hindu chakra system. So if you look at the energetic blueprint, there is a lot of alignment with the Hindu chakra system, right? Like the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the heart, the ajna, which is our third eye, the head center. So it's just providing like additional layers of these ancient like wisdoms and modalities from all over the world, from ancestrally, generationally, and just provides, it's like additional affirmation, right? Like, when you have different tools and you're like, oh yeah, that resonates. Ooh, I'm seeing like the golden thread that's weaving everything through it. So it's almost just like like you'll notice it with your natal chart, right? A great example is for those of you that study the Enneagram. I'm an emotional authority in human design. We'll get into that later, but I'm also in the emotional triad in the Enneagram. And you'll start to notice just little nuggets of like, okay, this is just affirming for me. Like, I have a wide range of emotions and I get to wait to make decisions. Like, I get to really trust myself, like, really wait till I'm at an emotional baseline when making decisions because my emotions are so high. Like, don't make a decision when you're really frustrated or upset. Also, don't make a decision when you're really excited, right? It's like, I know that about myself because I have all of these different tools. So I hope that helps clarify a little bit.
Yeah, that does. And I love that it's just another layer of awareness that we can add on, because I also feel like the astrology chart is so comprehensive. Like when I look at my natal chart and then I can look at where the planets as they move around the sky even affect it differently from day to day. It can kind of give me that similar awareness. But I love what you're saying, that it's just another
Just
layer
another
of
tool.
awareness that adds on to self-understanding and how we can more consciously navigate life, if I'm understanding correctly. Because you were spot on about my human design chart before we
Yeah.
even pulled it up from what you know
Yeah.
about me. So I love there's
Yes.
all these different ways of having deeper awareness, which leads me into, I know you want to share a little bit about the different types, and
Yes.
give some little nuggets of wisdom for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I do want to just share is there's a free tool. So it was funny, Jamie had a reading before, and then I was like, I think you're a manifesting generator. And she was. And we'll get into what that means. But there's a website. So I invite you to go to mybodygraph.com. And you do need to know, if you're listening to this, you likely know the location, time, and date of your birth. And you'll input that information and it will pull up your body graph. And I actually have Jamie's pulled up right now. And really what it does is, I love this tool because it's very interactive. You can hover over what are called the different centers. So the terminology is, you'll see all of these different centers. I pull it up right now. Some are colored in, some are white. You'll also see there's lines connecting everything. Those are called channels and gates. Again, some are colored in, some are white. And if you hover, it just starts rabbit holes. And then there's a whole information section that actually tells you your type, your strategy, your not self theme, your authority profile, etc. And we're going to get into some of those today, but this at least just gives you like the foundation if you want to. It's a free tool, and there are some information, like there's just a little bit of added data. So if you kind of want to, I know people like myself just want to start going down the rabbit holes and finding it all out and seeing how everything lands. So I certainly recommend like having that up on the screen when we get into it. And there are 5 types. So type is like the foundation of human design. And the way that I explain it is we are energy. It is an energetic blueprint, and each energy type plays a role on planet Earth. And so there are 5. And so everyone is one of the 5 types. And really, all of the types have a specific strategy for making decisions. And that is so critical during retrograde. So I really wanted to focus on type, and then within the type, talk about the strategy for decision making that can really support you during retrograde. So with that, do you have any questions before we just go and start with manifestors?
Gosh, well, maybe because I'm like the generating manifestor, I'm like, just tell me what it is.
Yes. So we're going to start. So what we'll do is we'll start with manifestors, and then
Yeah.
we'll start with generate, and then we'll go into generators. And the way I explain manifesting generators is you are like the birth child of both types. Like you embody the energy of both manifestors and generators. So we'll certainly get into that too.
Well,
So yes, and then so I'll certainly, when we talk about strategy within each type, it's really this unique way of making decisions and taking action in the world.
yeah.
And like as we mentioned, and you could probably offer additional support. It's a time to really go inward and to really like take a step back. That's at least what I do during retrograde. But we don't always we get to pick and choose. Like we don't always have that luxury because we are
Mhm.
living beings in this life that the world keeps spinning. So I would love to like pull in a little bit of your support too, just
Yeah.
with your wisdom that you have, and we can kind of create this awesome little support system for everyone listening to this today.
I love that.
So I do want to start out with explaining the centers. So as I mentioned, you can see all of the centers. I should probably have you pull yours up, but basically you'll see when you open your body graph, there's all of these different centers from the root all the way up to the head center. And there are something called motor centers. There are, and again, just think of them as energy centers that live inside of us. So we have the will center, the solar plexus center, the sacral, and the root. The reason why I want to explain that is because that sacral center in the middle, which is our energy center, it is like that sustainable energy, depending on if you're a manifesting generator or not. Everything around our type is centered around the motor center. So I just kind of wanted to explain that. So we'll start with manifestors. Manifestors are only 8% of the population. And if you are a manifestor, you will know that because it'll say it in the info section on mybodygraph.com, but it's open. So when you see a white center, that means that it's open. And it's open, and with any of the other motor centers connected to the throat center. So basically the focus for manifestors, so think about this as you're both, Jaime. So if you're a manifesting generator, you want to like take this information in too. Manifestors are the initiators of the world. They are the innovators, very empowering, like powerhouses, very provoking. And even during times of retrograde, like your home base, like it still can be very supportive for you to create and to initiate during this time. You know what's best for you, and you get to kind of just feel into the energy.
Right. Just how I am manifesting. Well, it's not just me, it's a whole group of people together. This
Yes.
summit. I'm hoping to go like take the slow down, the pause, the retrograde reset because I really need it. But as we're moving into it, it's like I'm doing the opposite of what I know I should be doing because I'm going so fast and working so much creating the summit.
Yeah, so it's like trusting yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's like you being autonomous, like even though there's a lot of things happening energetically right now, like your home base is actually to create, and then is to like initiate and also to put that into action. So for manifestors, how manifestors lead change is by initiating others into action. So true manifestors, they don't do the work. They come up with the ideas. So manifestors actually, because there's a lot happening like in the cosmos right now, we have a lot even outside of retrograde, I know you can probably share more about that. This actually may be a very potent time for manifestors to make decisions because that's what you do. The biggest thing that I think could really support you from a relationship and communication standpoint as a manifester is to always inform others. Now, if you are to make a decision during this time, you want to make sure that you're informing people properly, because a lot of manifestors, they have an idea and they just like create it, and they move quickly in that way because it's so just intuitive and in flow, that sometimes people are like, what? Like, people get angry, which then the manifestors can get angry. So there's this emotional theme with manifestors, that's anger. And it's because people sometimes are misunderstood by the way that you are able to create and initiate. And because of how effortlessly you can flow with that creation energy, sometimes people are feeling left behind, misunderstood. Why didn't you tell me? Feeling like maybe you pulled the wool over their eyes. So I think that's probably one of the most supportive actions that you can take during retrograde. I don't know if you have any thoughts you want to add there.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I do think these Mercury retrograde times, because halfway through every Mercury retrograde, Mercury aligns between the Earth and Sun. It's like a new moon, but a new Mercury. And Mercury is ideas, inspiration, thoughts. And so it is a time, I think Mercury retrograde is a time that, especially if we slow down and do the reset,
Yes.
the pause, that we can have so many inspiring ideas come to us. I think we all get an inspiring idea that comes to us right when Mercury aligns between the Earth and the Sun. And even with this Gemini solar eclipse we're about to have on June 10th, it's actually the same day Mercury aligns with the Earth and Sun. It's just, there's going to be a huge seeding for new ideas coming in. So perhaps our manifestors will be very attuned to the new ideas coming in. And I would say, I think these times are amazing times to have those new ideas and the inspiration come through. I find, just from the astrological perspective, I find it's not the time to act on them yet, but to certainly to have the
Yes.
ideas come in and be open to them, and then sit with them before making any decision or having any type of action. But
Yes.
I'm so welcoming of the new ideas coming in during this time.
Yeah, and the same thing, like maybe this is the time where the ideas come in and then you start to think about like who
Yes.
can this impact, like slowing down, like
Yeah.
who does this
Mhm.
impact, and maybe being discerning of like it's not the right time to inform. Maybe that's after retrograde, or maybe it's during, or like, but just kind of really taking that step back and just delineating like, ooh, this is an amazing idea. Who will be impacted? Who's my support? Who are my cohorts?
Yeah.
And then calling in the support to take the proper action. Manifestors are not meant to take action. That's why they get to inform, because they have the idea and then the generators run with it.
Yeah.
This is also a powerful time because we're going inward. The wealth theme for manifestors is really passive revenue. Like, they don't have that sustainable energy to work a 9 to 5 or to just like really churn out any sort of generative work. So this could be a time, like, play a little, like what ideas come in that could maybe be a leveraged income stream for you, and just kind of start to see there. Um, yeah, so some of the challenges are the lack of sustainable energy. So if you are, a lot of manifestors sometimes are in 9 to 5s, they are doing work that they shouldn't be doing. So this is a time, as Jamie said, like, slow down and give yourself rest. Like, start to just play a little and have the ideas come to you of like, how would you like to live? Like, how would you like to bring in money? How would you like to be in relationship with people? Because manifestors move really fast, which sometimes could be a lot. This is a great time to call in support, like call in your support. Um, Manifestors are not always the best team players. So, there's sometimes communication issues during this time. So again, like, just think about, it's not just about you. Like, you're very powerful with your decisions, and you are powerful. So you impact people. And the more that you can just like recognize that, you don't have to ask for permission, but it is really supportive for you to be in community with others in that way. So just like recognizing the impact you have kind of going inward and really journaling around it and just being more introspective is really supportive.
Oh, perfect. So cool. Well, I think
That's
this,
it for, yeah, that's it for
yeah.
manifestors. If you want to close with anything that came up for you.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I was, thinking I have a lot of cardinal energy in my astrology chart, which is like the energy of getting energy moving and going. And so I was just kind of making that connection as you were talking about that.
Yeah, and this like noticing if you feel angry, it's generally because you're not informing and you're not being a team player and you're moving alone as a manifester. So
Mhm.
right now is a time to rest. This is the time to really relax. And if you notice yourself feeling like that, like moving from, you know, whatever you're going, if you're sad and then all of a sudden it moves to anger, just recognizing, like, am I being a lone wolf? Am I not calling in support? Am I not like letting people know what I've got going on? So
Yeah, cool. This is so such a cool way to look at things.
yeah, awesome. So next up we have generators. I am a generator. 35% of the population, and we have a defined sacral motor. And so like that's like, you know, that's that creative like life force energy is where the sacral lives. So generators have a defined sacral and no motors connected to the throat. And what that means is that we are just here to do the work of the world. Like when we find our dharma, when we align with the work that really lights us up, we can just go. And I know you're a manifesting generator, so I'm sure you've probably heard this from people like, oh my gosh, how do you have all this energy? Oh my gosh, how are you able to just like crank this out? Oh my gosh, how are you able to just like, you know, tune into something or
People ask
really
me that all the time.
exactly. Yeah. So what's I think the most supportive action for generators is we are not here to initiate. And I used to be this way. I used to think like I needed to create, I needed to come up with some big idea. But really, especially during retrograde, there are signs all around us. And generators are here to respond to what is presented to us from the universe. And so just tuning in and recognizing like if you have an idea or something like that, or all of a sudden you're like, do I want to do this or do I want to do that? There's a gentleman that's mowing the lawn. Hopefully, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's really loud for me.
I could just barely hear it. So
Okay,
you're
good.
good. Yeah.
So, we're, that work from home life, everybody. So if you hear that, I'll try to talk a little bit louder. But we're here to respond as generators. And this is a time, again, to be introspective and to really call in, like, if you're feeling out of alignment, if you're feeling burned out as a generator, generators can do a lot of work. Like we can just go all day, but if it's not in alignment with like our authentic selves, then it does create burnout. So I would say retrograde is really a time to like look at the areas of your life. Where are you feeling out of alignment? Where are you feeling really burned out? Because generators should never be feeling burned out because we are here to do the work of the world. Like we are the light workers of the world. I don't know if there's anything you want to add there.
Again now.
Okay, so for the generator, the strategy is to respond and then act. So this is a time during retrograde where really, like this is a time to really look at the areas of your life that you're feeling out of alignment and to like look at the cosmos, like astrologically what is happening, to really go inward and to really ask for support from the unseen support that we have all around us in order to make aligned decisions. So a lot of generators have a challenging time because they want to initiate or they feel like impatient because generators also move really fast and they feel like I don't want to slow down. I don't want to wait to receive some sort of response from the universe, right? But what we realize is there's signs all around us. Like Jamie and I were just talking about activation numbers, and like there's support in numerology, there's a support in the cosmos, there's support with our guides, there's support everywhere. And this is the time that I believe that generators can really slow down to tune in order to take that aligned action to create the generative work that they're here to create. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I'm resonating with that. Yeah.
And so the emotional theme for generators is frustration. And remember, for manifestors, it was anger. Frustration happens with generators when they plateau. So generators plateau a lot because their step. Generators are usually really quick to learn, and then all of a sudden they plateau. And during that plateau period, which could be during retrograde, a lot of generators may quit what they're doing. They may think like, this isn't for me, or this is too challenging. And really, generators create their mastery during that time when they quiet their minds, during that time when they take a step back. So this to me is a really opportune time during plateaus. If you're feeling like things aren't working, if you're feeling like there's butting heads, if you're feeling like, eek, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, this is really the time to like pull back, wait for the signs, call in the support, like really journal and ask yourself what you want so that you can be supported, and then, you know, like retake that aligned action to create mastery.
Perfect. This is all so useful.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So generators are here to create mastery through repetition, and some of the supportive actions is knowing when to quit and really moving your energy. So this is something that's really powerful, because even though retrograde is a time to really kind of pull back and to rest more and to like kind of slow down a little bit, generators are meant to move our bodies a lot. So maybe you're not working out as hard, like maybe you're not like packing your schedule, but it is really important to connect to yourself, connect to source, connect to nature, and to really be moving your body in different ways, not being stagnant. Being stagnant is really unsupportive for a generator. And that's it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. What's the next one?
So the next one is a manifesting generator, and that's what Jamie is. And so this is a defined sacral with any of the motor centers connected to the throat. And honestly, it's what I like to say: when a manifestor and a generator have a baby, they create a manifesting generator. So I won't get into too much detail in terms of, you know, having all this separation, because it's really just the merging of the two we talked about before. But the biggest piece is that you have that creative initiating energy, and you're also able to create with it. The biggest difference between generators and manifesting generators, now there's a dog barking in the background, you know, I'm at my sister's right now, so we're just going to run with it. This is retrograde, right? Like tech challenges, communication challenges. So manifesting generators have I like to call it like an escalator creation of mastery, where generators is more stair step. Manifesting generators, they just go, and it's like this 45-degree angle of just going. And what happens is generally they make a lot of mistakes. Mistakes are not wrong. Mistakes are not bad. Mistakes are actually required for mangens in order to create their mastery. So this would be an opportune time. Like Jamie, I don't know, you might have some examples. Like maybe you were moving really fast on a project. This may be a time to be like, oh, this isn't working. A lot of it is working, but there's a few things that aren't. You could actually go back, and this is actually the time where you can really refine and notice what's not working to then create your mastery again. So it's almost like you take 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, 1 step forward, 1 step back, 4 steps forward, 5 steps back, and you just kind of keep going. And then, you know, it's kind of like this sliding scale. So I don't know if there's anything that you want to shed there that feels supportive for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's very much how I operate. Just and you can see it in my astrology chart, a lot of fire, so very instinctual, and it's you learn as you go. That's very much, I have a strong Aries energy, and part of that is making a lot of mistakes along the way. And I kind of feel like if I didn't do that, I wouldn't get anything going, though. I'd rather get something going and make a lot of mistakes, but at least it got created than not have anything created at all. But I love how you're bringing in the retrograde piece. It's a great time to, because that is the energy of retrograde, to review, to
Mhm.
revisit, and that reflection piece is really important for me. So I love how you're tying that in.
Yeah, and this is like the perfect time for you when you are looking at the steps, for example, for refinement. Like this is when you get to discern and learn when to skip steps. So it's like you start a new project and maybe you make some mistakes along the way. This is the time where you can refine so that the next time around you know exactly what steps you can skip so that you can move even faster. It's one of the many gifts of manifesting generators. And then also wearing yourself out every day for good sleep, like moving your body, because when manifesting generators and generators are moving their bodies, it actually, a lot of times it can feel like anxiousness if we're not moving our bodies enough, which then allows us to not be in tune with really what we want and what we desire. So that's a really critical piece during this time to, I think a lot of times we think rest, pause, go inward, but for generators and manifesting generators, we still want to make sure we're like really getting everything out energetically so that it allows the spaciousness to know what we want to create.
I love that. Now, is something important for manifesting generators? Is it a signature to want to kind of just run with it and do it on your own and not seeking out the support from others? Like, is that a signature that's needed to like make sure you're having the support from others, or is that just
Well,
me?
that's the, yes. So that's the manifester side. So generators, not so much. Like we
Yeah.
are like with people, we love to be in team. But
Yeah.
the manifester side of the man gen is that lone wolfing, that not calling in support because you're just so creative and you move quickly. You take an idea and you turn it into inspired action because you move faster than most and because you like are just so excited and aligned with this creative idea, you can sometimes leave people behind and forget that you have support all around you. So absolutely.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
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 Are
And
there, are
even,
there 5 types, did you say?
yeah, we've got one more.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd love to hear the next one.
Actually, we have two more. I got excited, but they're really quick. They're so the projectors. These are the least amount percentage wise that we have population wise. So they're not as common. But projectors are some of my favorite people in the world. They have an open sacral center, and they have no defined connections between any of the four motors of the throat. They are like the leaders of the world. Like they are here for guidance, for wisdom. They're very intuitive, very sensitive, and they share. They have a lot of wisdom. They're able to use their voice. They lead, people listen. Think of managers. Just think of some of the most amazing world leaders that are here to bring people together, for people to listen, for people to want to take the inspired action, right? Like it's like a Martin Luther King would be a projector, right? Like just having that voice, being able to bring people together that then allows others to take inspired action. The biggest strategy, and this again is a beautiful time during retrograde, is to wait to be invited and for recognition. So remember with generators and man gens, it was more of like responding to life that happens multiple times throughout the day. The projector, it's more formal. It's like a much more formal invitation in order to discern whether something is aligned or not for a projector. So it's really about waiting and being patient. And the emotional not self theme is bitterness. A lot of times there's a lot of bitterness because of the patience that's required. A lot of times projectors, when they're not connected to their higher self or to source, they can also be really bitter. So it's really imperative that projectors during this time can really connect to, the cosmos, connect to their unseen support, connect to the support that they the bitterness really comes through. And, no one wants to be around a bitter leader. One of the main challenges too is just not recognizing burnout, because projectors don't have that sustainable energy. So very similar to manifestors in the way that they're not meant to work that 9 to 5 or that like entrepreneurial life where they're just in massive action all of the time. It's almost like everybody knows that one person that their presence is just felt when they enter a room. That's what a projector does. Like, you just see a person, you feel their presence, and you want to listen, and you want to like take that consciousness and then create something else in the world. So this is the time to wait for your invitation, not act on it, but this is the time where you can really receive the proper invitations from, the cosmos. Anything you want to add there?
Beautiful. I think this is so insightful to have this awareness as well, to just have this other layer of understanding how to navigate life, because I'm resonating a lot with what you shared about my type.
Absolutely. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah. So projectors, they're not meant to move their body a lot. Like, they really require a lot of rest. So this is a time too during retrograde, like to lie down and rest before sleep, like prepare yourself, like almost ritualize your morning and nighttime routines more than really any of the other types. And being patient for people to understand you. And the more that you can kind of step into your power and your leadership in that way, the more others are going to feel that. So I think this is a time to like own who you are and trust in the invitations and trust that you're really here to create a lot of movements in the world. Next up, we have reflectors.
Yeah.
So reflectors, this is a fun one. I would love to know if you're a reflector. Reach out to me if you're watching this, because I feel like a lot of people who are very in tune with astrology are reflectors. Less than 1% of the population. Their chart is almost fully white, undefined, meaning they have no defined centers in their chart. And they're here for community. They're very sensitive. They're here to mirror the world. Their life's purpose is really being that karmic mirror, and to really measure the energy in the community. I kind of think of them as like a barometer, right? And their strategy is to wait before making decisions. And they follow the lunar cycle in their decision making, which can be extremely challenging for reflectors who are not living in alignment with their energetic astrologically. So it's like paying attention to your energetic cycles. It obviously, we know that there are specific times to make decisions, to be more introspective, with the lunar cycle in particular, but sometimes with reflectors, they have their own energetic cycle based on the lunar cycle. So it's really, this is the time, right? Like, we have the beautiful full moon. This is where you get to start to journal during retrograde right now of like, how am I feeling energetically? What feels right? Does this feel like a good time to make decisions? Does it not? Because then you'll start to get on your own cycle with the lunar cycle based on your energetic blueprint. And the challenges are really trusting your certainty, falling in love with people's potential. Like, there's a lot with people. Pressure to make decisions quickly is a big one. And you really want to make sure that you're around the community and the people that really lift you up. Like, this is the time to call in the aligned people of this higher consciousness in your life, because you're going to be mirroring that back to others, which again is going to create an even higher consciousness and continue to evolve the population. So being like right now, this is a good time for you to take your time, surround yourself with people that make you feel good, really start to be in tune with your monthly energy cycle, and just being conscious of the energy around you, because you're so open. A lot of reflectors are very empathic. You tend to take on other people's projections, other people's energy, learning not to take things personally, and just recognizing how powerful you are as that 1%er of the world. I mean, truly, it is that way of being that is really going to shift the world with your gifts. And that can feel confusing for reflectors because, it's like built completely differently than the paradigm that we're so used to living in this world, which is quick moving, working that 9 to 5, working all the time, making decisions very fast, which is the complete opposite of what's aligned for a reflector. And those are the 5.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing this, this new way we can orient ourselves, because that's just what I love, is all these different ways of deeper self-understanding and how they can support us as we navigate reality. Do you have any tips that you have for navigating Mercury retrograde that you want to share with us?
For my type or just in general?
Just in general, or perhaps, I don't know, maybe you can probably speak to your human design type very well, for your type, if you have anything.
Yeah, I think, like just listening to the supportive actions from before, really just going inward and being discerning, like, what do I want, and not really taking action on it yet, right? Like, so for manifestors, it's like, what am I wanting to create in the world and who is going to be impacted? Like, that's a really beautiful journal prompt and something that you can really meditate on. For generators, it's like, where am I leaking my energy? Like, where am I people pleasing? Where am I saying yes to things when I really mean no? Where am I overworking? Journaling around that and really going inward during this time, so that when we're out of retrograde, you can start to make those aligned shifts. For manifesting generators, it's the same thing. Like, when are you feeling frustrated? When are you feeling angry? When are you not calling in support and informing people? When are you moving too fast and not allowing the space and the time to really go back and say, like, where am I creating, where are there mistakes? Where can I refine, etc.? And then, with projectors, it's like, where are you operating the same way as everybody else? Like, where are you working too much? Like, where are you just exhausting yourself, whether it be in how you're moving your body and relationship and work, and going inward to have fun with being open to invitations. I think for projectors, it's like, you get to ask the universe for support. Like, you get to say, I'm ready for my invitation. If you're in a job that's really, I have a projector I just did a reading for, and he is very burnt out in a finance career. And I said, you get to ask for the invitation. Like, you get to ask for the support of what your next step is, in order to find the aligned path of how you want to work and live and show up in the world. And then for reflectors, it's, who are you surrounding yourself with? Like, are you living in a place that just doesn't feel aligned? Are you around people that don't feel aligned? And really just going inward to start to look at those areas of your life that are feeling too much. And that's where you can, again, call in the support in order to call in your tribe, call in your soul tribe, and to be around people energetically that fill you up. So I hope that was supportive. So this is the time to just like ask the questions and ask for the support. And you don't need to, there's nowhere to get to. Like, you don't need to do anything. You just get to listen.
I love that. And actually, that's a theme that many astrologers have shared throughout the summit, is this is a time to ask questions.
Yeah.
To not know the answers. We see that with the Gemini North Node, that asking questions, new possibility, new perspective with the eclipses. Yeah, that's been a big theme that's gone through our summit. So I love that you're tying that in another way, the same theme that's coming through, like another lens of perspective. I think that's so cool.
Yeah. And I mean, I like astrology, there's so like, right, there's so many tools, there's so many things that provide a lot of value. And, with human design, there's just like one little speck of Eastern and Western astrology that then makes up like other, like other wisdom that can then kind of just, to me, it's like helping you affirm, right? It's like, okay, we know this to be true, but maybe it's presented in a different way. Maybe it sheds a different light on something that you didn't like necessarily think before. The way I describe it is like, when you go to a different yoga instructor, right? Like you maybe get set in stone and you're like, I love this studio, I love this instructor. And then you go on vacation and there's like one micro movement that you had never been communicated before and like you had never really like taken in, and it changes everything for you. So that's my hope, is that there's just one little nugget that was like, yeah, I do know this about myself and I've been resisting it and now it feels really good and I'm going to follow that. Like that is my one just hope for listening to this
Mm.
interview series.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for being here, Lindsay. This is so cool because I'm not very educated on human design, because there's so many layers of astrology where I can go deeper and deeper. And that's just my
Yes.
heart's calling, is astrology and new different techniques. And I can, go back in the past and future and look at these very specific things. So I love hearing this perspective that there's other ways of awareness that we can have deeper self-understanding. So I really appreciate you being here and sharing that, because I very much resonate with my chart, my human design chart that you pulled up for me. So that's so cool. So I know you have a
Yeah,
free offer for the summit. I'd love to
I
hear about
do.
that, and just anything else that you do. I know you offer sessions for people and different experiences to learn about human design. So anything you feel called to
Yeah.
share about.
Yeah. And I think, for me, astrology, I loved it, but I didn't really like, there's just so many layers to it. And this was like, human design was like a stepping stone where now I feel like, okay, I've got my feet wet and I feel like I have support. Like I've called people like you and Jamie. So it's like, there could be people on this series too, that like this astrology may be completely new for them. Right. And this may just feel like, okay, this could be a stepping stone to then delve into the vast world of astrology. Because I know for me, it was like, where do I even start sometimes? Because it's so amazing. There's just so much wisdom there. So, with that, I have an amazing ebook. And it really just kind of is a synopsis of everything that I talked about today with the types and the strategy, but it does go a bit deeper. You listen to something, some people may be audio, maybe some people may be visual, some people like to print things out and just underline. So I think it'll just give you a little bit more insight as to what human design is and really how it can support you during this time in retrograde and really throughout your life for decision making. If you're feeling out of alignment, just kind of a place to come home to. And yes, I have two options right now. So I actually do VIP days. I notice that VIP days, which really are just larger sessions packed into a specific day, I find that people with a VIP day, generally they're able to consume it more, right? Like it's not spread out. They're able to really take everything in and they're really able to integrate it in a much more meaningful way. And then I do unlimited Voxer support, because generally after a human design session, I'm sure it's the same with astrology, where people are like, I have more questions. This is opening up for me as you're integrating. So I have that option. And then I also just do general 90-minute reading. So if you feel like you want a little bit more clarity on your specific chart, I also do those as well. And I think that's really it. I'm just excited to support and just add this additional tool if it feels like it serves you. And I hope that it supported you in some way.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Lindsay, for being
Of
here.
course.
It's such a treat to have you. And yeah, I'm very curious personally to learn more about my human design chart. I
Yeah.
have a Scorpio moon, so deep self-understanding is something that I'm always drawn to, and how to support others in deep self-understanding. And so this has just given me a whole new area to be excited to learn more about.
Yeah, and just like we didn't talk about this, but the profile is really helpful for your entire life theme. And one of the numbers in your profile is a 1, which is the investigator. I also have a 1 in my profile, and that is exactly what you said. It's like I love to just go deep. I love to just investigate. I love to just like geek out on things, and it's almost like siphoning out information so that you can process it, but then also like share it with the world. So again, it's like you'll just start to find these little nooks and crannies of alignments where it's just additional affirmation that you are meant to be an investigator. Like you are meant to research and delve deep and to really like go inward in that way and to just have fun experimenting with these tools.
Yeah, well, awesome. Thank you so much, Lindsay,
You're
for being
welcome.
here. And
Thank you for having me.
yes, I hope that everyone got something from it, got a new gem from it, and it just gives us other ways of self-understanding. So I'm so grateful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Reach out if you have any questions.
Ah,
Mwah.
bye for now, everyone.
Bye.